As you probably know by now, I hate a lot of companies. Now, I don't hate all companies, and I don't just start out hating them, but a lot of them deserve the flack that I give. With more and more of them trying as hard as they can to screw over every consumer they have for that little extra money they could possibly get, I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from. When I thought of the worst companies ever, I would think of Ubisoft or Activision or Konami. It wasn't until I learned about net neutrality, however, that I realized the worst company in existence is actually the government. Before we begin, let's first figure out what net neutrality is. Net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers should enable access to all content and applications regardless of the source, and without favoring or blocking particular products or websites. Essentially, net neutrality ensures all data is to stand on equal ground. No one website may have precedence, and everybody has to fight on equal terms. See, the internet is fair. If I were to post a website similar to eBay or Craigslist and try to compete, I would have to do so on my own. I would have to build up or fail on my own, and this is a fantastic example of fairness. However, it isn't net neutrality existing that's the problem. According to the FCC, apparently, net neutrality should go away, being replaced instead by a system in which internet service providers have full control. Now, if that doesn't scare you, let me try to explain why this is quite possibly the worst thing that could ever happen to the internet. See, internet service providers, or ISPs, like Verizon, Comcast, and Charter, they operate as closely as they possibly can to a monopoly. Because internet is a service and not a utility, we have to pick, choose, and pay the rates that they offer. Now, that in itself is fine, but the way in which they operate is not. See, in almost every town and city you visit in America, you'll notice that there may only be one or two internet providers. Of these, the one who sets their cables down first pretty much has the monopoly. In my area, you'll notice that Charter has the ability to offer 60 megabits per second, whereas Comcast and Spectrum can only offer 10. This is because Charter got to my area first, and the cables they use are being shared between these ISPs, meaning Charter has the turf. Not only that, but they only allow Spectrum and Comcast to use 10 megabits per second on their cables to ensure your only option is to go to Charter. This allows Charter to raise their prices in this area, but it'll be interesting for you to find out that in other areas, Charter is actually the slowest. Over in this area, Spectrum got there first, and in this area, it was Comcast who has their cables down. Them working together like this not only allows a monopoly to form, but they can't actually be touched for a monopoly since technically other ISPs are in the area. This also ensures that there is no competition. But Barry, you said that the government was involved. How are scummy ISPs related to the government? Good question. Have you ever heard of Google Fiber? Well, Google Fiber is an internet service provided by Google itself to give people like you and me access to faster internet speed. Google is trying to set this up all over the world so that anyone could have access to said faster internet. Problem they're facing, though, is these other ISPs that own the territory, as it were, are able to go to the Senate, politicians, delegates, and make a bit of a trade. If you ensure Google can't put their cables down here, we can cut you in on a bit of money. And guess how often that works? So not only is it expensive for other ISPs to lay their cables in areas that are already cabled, but they're often shut out by these scummy businesses and crooked politicians that are just looking for that extra buck and don't want this competition. Okay, Barry, we've known for ages that governments are shaky. You can't have a government without a bit of corruption. So what if net neutrality was taken away? What's the worst that could happen? Well, judging by the way these ISPs work now, it would not be hard to assume that they continue working this way if they had full control over the internet. Think of it this way. The Wall Street Journal hates YouTube. YouTube is far more successful than their site. How hard would it be for the Wall Street Journal to ask these providers to slow YouTube down for everyone and speed their website up? I mean, hey, a few bucks here and there you are. Google would have no way to retaliate other than to jump into the exact same broken system and pay for their site to run faster. These ISPs make money simply because they have full control. Another one. Let's say Comcast made a streaming service for their shows, kind of like Amazon, Hulu, and Netflix have. How hard would it be for them to simply slow down the competition with no way of them getting out of it? All of a sudden, Netflix is slow, but Comcast streaming service is really fast and stable. I'm gonna go with them. Hell, even the website I talked about before, the one I made similar to eBay and Craigslist. Why, if I were so inclined, all I'd have to do is have enough money to shut them down. And this is the scary problem. Yeah, these ISPs said that they'd behave if this was put into place. They even said that they'd allow users to sign a term of service agreement so that they knew what they were getting into. Yeah, terms of service. Not only do we never read those, but they can and are changed all the time. Sure, you can make a promise now, but if the FCC allows the removal of net neutrality, these ISPs have free reign, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop them. Okay, Barry, there has to be something good that can come from the removal of net neutrality. Let's say they did strip the freedom of the internet away. There has to be a pro, right? Well, here it is. If internet service providers actually had all the power, they would finally be forced to compete. They would have to come up with real ways to make you side with them. Something they should be doing now. Something that as a consumer, you and I both have the right to. Again, as of right now, mostly in America, we're forced into service providers. We have no choice in that. So instead of them doing their job, we sit there and take it. And if net neutrality was removed, this would have to go away. They couldn't just slow each other down. That'd be like if you and all your siblings had TV volume remotes. They would finally have to fight fair. Or wait, would they? See, the turf war agreement that they currently have would actually have no reason to change. If they all left each other alone as they do now, they would still make tons of money, only now they control what you and I can and can't watch. You like political debates? Well, sorry, the only ones with stable connections are the ones based on my stances. You like browsing the internet? Well, sorry, you have to go to the sites that paid me. None of this is good, and I cannot think of a single reason why this should be in place other than the government wants this to happen, tells us it won't be abused, and offers us no other reasoning other than, we want to give this a try.
The system is working, yet, Mr. Chairman, you're proposing to undo the open internet order. What is the problem, Mr. Chairman, that you are trying to fix?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think one of the concerns that we have raised is that these regulations might be dampening infrastructure investment.
They might be, but there's no evidence of it.
Well, there has been evidence raised, and that's part of the reason why we are testing this proposition in the context of the notice of proposed rulemaking. Some had suggested the FCC should simply issue a declaratory ruling saying that the facts in the law are so, and that's the way it's going to be. But we wanted to test this proposition in an open and public process.
Look, I know the American government isn't a company, but you can't deny the countless times it has tried and succeeded in abusing us. They first tried to remove net neutrality back in 2014. They used propaganda and lies to confuse people, saying that net neutrality was violating our rights, and if it didn't leave, the internet as we know it would be over. And just like last time, they're trying to do this again. So please, stay vigilant, read up on it, advocate against its removal, and watch more videos like this. The people that are trying to remove net neutrality probably hate people like me right now, and all I have to say is, sorry guys, but this will fail again. You can fool a few of us, you can convince some of us, but I'm not going to be so easy to trump.